Okay, so we look at this question. Now, this question is a little bit different from the other kinds of questions that we've had. If you read it, you'll see that there is this food or pet food company that is trying to manufacture two types of dog food. So we have meaties and we have yummies. Now they give us some information about meaties and some information about um, the yummies, and there's some constraints listed over here. So we'll just get into it and then try and solve this question and then see where we get. Now, when you read it, you will see that a particular question is not asked. We're not asked what is the maximum profit or how many of each should he manufacture or something like that. So with this one, at the end, we can just make a conclusion, whether it's to say this is the maximum profit or this is the number of meaties he must make or something like that. Okay, so what I did after reading this question is I summarized this information in a table. So that's always good to do if you're not sure what to do. So you can see in this column here, I have meaties. Meaties takes 2 pounds of cereal, 3 pounds of meat, and they are production costs, which are mentioned in the question, that is the blending and the packaging. It costs 25 cents. And for yummies, 3 pounds of cereal, 1.5 pounds of meat, and then the blending and the packaging is 20 cents. Now, I'm sure you know already that pounds is just another way of measuring weight. So here in the measure, we always talk about kilograms or pounds. I'm sure you know this is another unit. Just like currencies, they come in all different things. Some people use the rand, use the Namibian dollar, other people use the US dollar. So pounds, kilograms, they're all measuring the same thing, but in a different way. Okay, now over here, what this is the price that cereal costs, or the price for cereal. So we have 20 cents per pound and 50 cents per pound. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Okay, I can't remove it, but it's fine. Okay, so we have 50 cents per pound for the meat. Okay, so as you know, the first thing we always have to do is to define our variables. Now with questions like this one, it seems like there's so much information. You might be tempted to say something like, let X be the amount of cereal you'll buy and Y be the amount of meat you will buy. The only problem with that is if you go along that way and eventually you get to an answer, and let's say you are told, or from your workings, you find out that you should make, let's say you should buy, let's say 20,000 pounds of cereal and 30,000 pounds of meat. That doesn't really tell you what to do with the meat. Now that you have that much meat, should you make more meaties and less yummies, or how much of it? It doesn't really answer your question. It doesn't really help you in solving the question. So what you should do whenever you assign variables, make sure that the answer you get from the variables makes sense. It is something that you can easily use. So me saying my X is the amount of meat and my Y is the amount of cereal that I should buy does not answer my question. So rather, define our variables in this way. Let X be the number of packages of meaties to be produced, and let Y, you see the X over there, I've labeled it, and let Y be the packages of yummies. Okay, so we move on. Step number 2, I'm sure you know, is to define or determine your objective function. Like I always say, your objective function is twofold. You have two things that you have to do. State what the objective is. What do you want to do? You want to maximize your profit. Now, as you know, the function part of the objective function is you must give me an equation like this. Now, you will know, and in all of the questions that we have dealt with, we always say that our profit and our total profit P is equal to the amount of profit we get from meaties and the profit that we get from the yummies. Now the question is, how much profit am I getting from meaties and how much profit am I getting from yummies? Which the question does not state outright, but I'm sure we will be able to calculate it. So there's a package of meaties. What we want to do is, from the information that we are given, calculate what the profit is for that one package, and then we will be able to work out what the total profit from meaties is. Now, as you know, I'm sure you've done some form of business studies in school or something like that, but even if you haven't, I'm sure you'll be able to understand that we say our profit is how much we will sell something for minus the cost that we put into it. Now, for example, if you're a baker and you bake a loaf of bread, you say, okay, how much am I going to sell this for? And whatever I sell it for should be greater than what I spent baking it, otherwise I'm making a loss. Okay, so this is a well-known formula. Even if you didn't do business studies, you should be able to understand that. Okay, now we say, what are our costs? Because the selling price is given to us in the question. Right now, I just want to figure out what the costs are. We have meat. Now, a package of meaties contains 3 pounds of meat, and we know that meat costs 25 cents per package. So we say 3 pounds multiplied by 50 cents per pound, and that should be $1.50. Now, cereal also goes into making this package of meaties. And how much cereal do we put in here? We put 2 pounds. And how much does a pound of cereal cost? It costs 20 cents. So we say 2 pounds multiplied by the 20 cents per pound. And then we should have 40 cents. Okay, so those are the two costs. There's one more, and stated to us is the packaging. That is the production cost and all the other things that we do in the factory in order to produce this meaties. It costs 25 cents. I don't need to multiply that by anything because that is, as long as I'm making up a package of meaties, I will spend 25 cents. Okay, so I'm going to add all of these together, my 150, my 40 cents, and my 25 cents, because that is all the costs that are involved in producing this meaties package. Okay, so I add everything together. You can check on your calculator. Feel free to pause the video and check if my values are correct. Okay, it doesn't help you to sit and just watch me do it. Participate in it. Pause the video and write stuff down. Check the calculations on your calculator. Okay, and the total cost from there should be $2.15. Now remember, what we want is the profit. We want to work out what the profit is. So to do that, we still need to say the selling price minus the total cost. Okay, our selling price, we can get that from the information in the question. We're told that it sells for this one package of meaties, sells for $2.80. How much does it cost us to make that one package? It costs us $2.15. And on your calculator, you can see that our profit is 65 cents per package of meaties. So one package of meaties, I make a profit of 65 cents. Now we can do the same thing for the yummies package, and then we will see that our profit is 45 cents. So we say our total cost, the meat, the cereal, the packaging, we add that all together, and then we subtract that from the selling price, and then that should give us the profit. Okay, so remember, we're still at step number 2. Step number 2 is where we develop an objective function. So we've stated the objective, which is to maximize profit. Now the only thing that we're left to do is write down a formula for the profit. Okay, so this is how we say we want to maximize profit. Then then the formula is P is equal to 0.65x. Remember, x previously we defined it as the number of meaties packages. So one meaties package costs 65 cents. So I multiply that by how many meaties packages I have. That gives me the profit from meaties. And then one package of yummies is 45 cents. And I multiply that by the number of, one meaties package gives me a profit of 45 cents. I hope that's what I said the first time. Okay, and then you multiply that by however many you have, and then that gives you your total profit. So with step number 2, we've determined our objective function. Now this question you can see is different from the others in that here we have to calculate what the profit is. Previously, the profit was given to us, but you may get questions where you must use your prior knowledge from school or your life experience to know that, when I want to work out the profit, I must say how much am I going to sell this for minus how much I spent on it. Okay, step number 3 is our constraints and limitations. Now these are important and we need to make sure we list all of them. Now constraints, as you know, these are things that are stopping us from just producing whatever it is we want to sell indefinitely or an infinite amount, because one would think, why can't I just make like a million or a bazillion meaties packages and then I'll get a really big profit? That doesn't work like that in real life. There's always things that are hindering you. Maybe you don't have enough money to buy the meat, maybe you don't have enough money to buy all the cereal, or maybe even people will not buy that many packages of meaties. Okay, so there's always things that are limiting you, and you always have to take these into consideration. So the first thing we have that is a constraint is the cereal, the amount that is delivered to the factory or that the factory uses. This limitation, we say that we write it as 2x plus 3y is less than 400,000. So we say that the amount of cereal that we get in the factory is 400,000. So that means the amount of cereal we use on meaties and the amount of cereal we use in the yummies, when we add everything together, that should be less than 400,000. Okay, so here this is 2 because when I have a package of meaties, it has 2 pounds of cereal, and then the total will be 2 pounds by the number of packages that I have. And for yummies, one package of yummies has 3 pounds of cereal, and then the total is just 3 pounds by how many packages do I have. And then again, altogether, it should be less than 400,000. Then our next limitation is the meat. So we have a limitation on the meat. This is how we would write it. We only get 300,000 pounds of meat per month. So we say the amount of meat in meaties, one package, 3 pounds. How much is it all together? It's 3 times x, because one package is 3, so the total is just 3 times the number of packages that you have. And the same thing is true for the yummies. And the meat is just how much meat do we use in meaties, how much meat do we use in yummies. Altogether, that should be less than 300,000 pounds. Okay, now production of meaties is also a constraint because, as you can see, this is a specialized machine. Meaties uses a special machine. I don't know if it's in the packaging or something, but this means that we cannot make more than a specific number. So this says that, I don't know if it's the package itself or what it is, whatever it is, or that the machine can only handle so many packages per month, but that is a limitation. So we need to make sure that X is less than or equal to 90. That means the number of meaties packages that we make should be less than 90,000. Okay, another one that is sometimes overlooked but is quite important is the non-negative constraint, so x and y should be greater than or equal to 0. This just means that the minimum number of meaties that you can make should be 0, and the minimum number of yummies you can make should be 0. That means you cannot make less than 0. You cannot have a negative amount of meaties because these are actual objects. I don't know what a negative 5 number of packages for meaties would look like. It's not something you can see in real life, so that's why we put this. Okay, and step number 3 is done. Move on to the next thing, which I'm sure you can guess, well, not guess because you know. Step number 4, the step 4. I think my labeling is not right. Okay, so step 3, we need to draw the graph and find the feasible region. Now when we're drawing our graph, all we need to do is all those constraints that we had, we need to plot them and then shade out the unwanted regions. So we have inequalities. What we do is we turn them into equations. We draw those lines, shade out the regions that we want, and it's back to an inequality. Now the first one we have is 2x plus 3y is equal to 400. Okay, this is a mistake I see. This should not be a y, so this should be out. Okay, so that's not right. It should just be 4x plus 3y is equal to 400,000. And remember we said whenever you're sketching, whenever you're drawing a line, it's always easy to use the x and the y-intercept. So you know, at the x-intercept, y is equal to 0. So I put y is equal to 0. I substitute it in there. I have 3y is equal to 400,000. I divide by 3 on both sides. I get my x value. Then I work out my y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept, x is equal to 0. So yeah, x is 0. What did I say the first time? Okay, you know what I mean. At the x-intercept, y is 0. And at the y-intercept, x is 0. I hope I've labeled this correctly, but those points are fine. Then the next line, 3x plus 1.5y is equal to 300,000. So this one I get from the meet constraint, and I do the same thing I did over there. I work out what my x and y intercepts are. There they are. And then I will use those 2 points, plot them on the line. The next one, x is equal to 90,000. This is a vertical line. Okay, so the vertical line, you know what a vertical line looks like, but I will show you just now. Okay, then x is equal to 0. That's the y-axis. Y is equal to 0, which is the x-axis. So these are the lines that I need to draw: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And with all these lines, I will do some shading. Why do I do that? Because they come from inequalities. This equal to signs are not, I didn't have them originally. I put them there so that I could have a straight line. Okay, so I had inequalities here. And I changed them, and that is why after I draw the line, I need to shade out the unwanted region. Now the objective function line, we've always said it's different from the other ones in that firstly, I always have an equal to sign over here. Unlike these ones where I change the inequality and then make it an equal to. So here I have an equal to symbol, so that means I will not do any shading. And then over here I do not have a number. Now if you remember what I said is you are free to pick whatever number you want to, but always pick a number that will fit nicely with your scale over here, because if you have, let's say, 1 over here, and then you solve for x and y and you get those intercepts, it might not fit on your graph, and from that you cannot draw it. So you need an objective function line that you will be able to draw on your graph and then represent it. So I picked this one over here, and then I'll show you how I drew that one.
Okay, so now all we have to do is draw those lines. Now the first one, 2x plus 3y is equal to 40,000. We've worked out what the points of intersection are. Oh, sorry, the x and the y intercepts. So all we have to do is draw them, and then we plot them on the graph wherever they are, and then we just take our ruler and then we connect them. Okay, so the first point is 0. That's over there. This is my origin. So it's 0, 133. So I have to do a bit of estimation because of the scale that I have chosen. So you might not be able to see, but I'm counting in 10,000s on the y-axis, and I'm counting in 20,000s on my x-axis. So it just depends on your scale, and then you estimate in that manner. So I have 0, 133. So I'll have to plot maybe 130 something and then just estimate. So here, this is 130,000. Right between there will be 135. So I can estimate that 133.333 will be somewhere there. So I have to do my best to estimate correctly. And then the x-intercept is 200,000, 0. This one is easy because I can just read it, and I put my point over there. Then after I've done that, make sure it's correct. It's 0, 133, and then that is 200,000, 0. I take my ruler, I connect. Okay, so there you go. Make sure your ruler is steady. It's not going to move. Okay, you'll notice I'm drawing with a pen, but you shouldn't do that. The only reason I'm drawing with a pen is so that it's clear and easy to see. With a pencil, it might not be so visible. But when you draw anything on your graph, make sure you're using a pencil. Okay, so that's the first one. Now we need to shade. Now remember, we shade out the part that we do not want. Now this line, we want the values that are less than 400. Remember, for a slanted or horizontal line, less than is below. So I want this part below, and the part above I do not want it, so I am going to shade it out. So there we go, shade it out. Okay, so we shade. That means anything above this line is not in our feasible region. If I pick a point over there, it is not what I want. Okay, then our next line, 3x plus 1.5y is equal to 300,000. We've already worked out what our intercepts are, so all we need to do is plot them. The first one is 100,000, 0. 100,000 is here, so I just make a point for it, and the y-intercept is 0, 200,000, and that's way over here. So I plot the points. So I have my 2 points on the line. There's that one here and that one there. This one here is 10,000. Sorry, 100,000. Is that right? Yeah, it's 100,000. Looks like 10,000 on my paper, but it's 100,000. So I have 100,000. Should add one more 0. Okay, I have 100,000. 0, and then 200,000, 0. So I just take my ruler again and I put 2 points with my ruler. Then make sure my ruler is steady, and then I connect my 2 points over there. Okay, there. And I didn't do this for the first one, but you should label all your lines. So this first one over here, it's the second one. It's 3x plus 1.5y. This is equal to 300,000. And then this one over here is 2x plus 3y is equal to 400,000. Okay, now back to this line, we need to shade out the part that we don't want. Now remember, we want less than 300,000. Less than 300,000 is below the line, or it's on this side. Or you could do it the other way that I showed you. You pick a point in one of the two regions, because this line divides the regions into this part and that one. So pick a point here and see, does it satisfy the inequality? And here I will pick the origin. When I substitute 0, 0 into the equation, you will see that it is less than 300,000. So that is the region I want. So here is my line. You can clearly see it. So I'm going to shade everything above it, because I want my region to include the areas where, sorry, this is not supposed to be shaded. It's a slip of the pen. Okay, and then everything up there is already shaded out because of the line I drew first. Okay, so I have my two lines. I move on to the next one. The next line is x is equal to 90,000. Okay, but line x is equal to 90,000 is a vertical line. So I go where x is equal to 90,000. 90,000 is over here. And then I just need to draw a vertical line. I don't even need to work out the points on it. So my vertical line goes like so. Okay, let me label this. This x is equal to 90,000. Okay, you might not be able to see it, but my line is labeled. Let me label it over here. You can see it. Okay, so I have x is equal to 90,000. Then it's labeled. Now I need to shade out some areas. Now I must shade out whatever is greater than or equal to 90,000, because my machine can only make up to 90,000. So greater than on a vertical line is to the right, which is what I don't want. So everything here is going to be shaded out. Okay, and the rest on top here, I don't even need to shade it because it is shaded out already by virtue of the other lines, but why not, just for emphasis. Okay, so this is my feasible region. You can see it's getting smaller. It has some almost trapezium kind of shape, but not quite. But you can see it is getting smaller and smaller. Okay, then I need to have x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. This is a line x is equal to 0, so I will draw it again, just like that. And what do I want? I want the amount of meaties I make to be positive or 0. So that means I want them on this side, not this side. So everything here I would shade out. Okay, and then the line y is equal to 0 is the x-axis. So I would take my ruler and just trace over it. There's no need to. And what do I want? I want the number of yummies to be positive or 0. So everything under the y I need to shade out. So you shade it out. And you can see the only region that is not shaded is like that. Okay, and if you remember, we said that our maximum profit will come from these intercepts. So it'll be, sorry, at the vertices. So it's there, this vertex over here. Where's the next one? I think there's one just here, and then there is another one here, and there's this one over there. Okay, so to actually get the values, all we do is we use our graph. That's why our scale has to be a really good one. Now over here I have 0, 0. It's the origin, but I doubt the answer will be there. And then here I have 90,000, 0. So this is 90,000 and 0. I hope you can see that. So it's 90,000 and 0. And then this point over here looks like 80,000, 20. Okay, so that's 80,000, 20,000. Okay, let me just write it underneath. Okay, so when you are actually working this out, you don't have to actually label what those points of interception are on the graph. You can do it with your working or on a separate piece of paper. Here I'm just showing you how to read the graph basically. Now this point over here, it looks like it's in between, but on the x-axis it looks like 50,000. And on the y-axis it looks pretty close to 100,000. So I'm gonna have to round up a bit. You can see your graph, which has those tiny little boxes. You'll be able to read it, and to me it looks like it's just about 100,000. And then this point over here, this one I know exactly what it is because it is my intercept, which I got. So this is 0,133.33, and then it continues like that. This one I know exactly what it is because it is from the graph, because I worked it out. But I can also write it as 130 or 133, 133,000. That is also fine. Okay, now I know that my maximum is going to come from one of these points. Now the only thing left for me to do is to sketch the objective function line, and then once I've sketched it, wherever it is, once I've drawn it, then all I will do is I will move my ruler in a certain way, and then you will see that it passes through one of these points.
Version of what you saw me drawing. All the lines that I drew by hand, you can see they are represented here. The parts that I shaded out, you can see them more clearly, which ones are shaded and which ones are not. And here is my objective function line. Now remember what I said about the objective function line. I said that if you take your ruler and then you move it such that it is always parallel to this one, it will pass through the vertex or the corner point that gives you your solution. Okay, but what I want to see this represented, and remember to label your lines. Okay, so remember what we want to do. We want to maximize our profit. So we say that the solution is always 100% of the time at one of these points. Okay, so on our calculators, we can quickly check how much profit we will get at each of the vertices. Now this one over here, I don't even need to check it because I know if I don't make any meaties packages and I don't make any yummies packages, my profit is obviously going to be 0. So nothing to check there, but you can check if you don't believe me. Then we look at next vertex. That's this one over here. What you do is you substitute this x, so it's 0.65 times 0, and then this 133 or the 130 that you used on the 133 rather, that 133,000 that you used on your graph, because you have to estimate. That is also fine. You'll see that the profit is around that much. The next vertex I have is this one over here. It's 90,000, 0. So this means make 90,000 packages of yummies and no packages, 90,000 packages of meaties and no packages of yummies, and this is the profit you get. At this vertex over here, you would get 67,500. And then finally here, where our maximum profit is, we'll get 77,500. Okay, and as a rule, you'll notice that the further this line is from the origin, that is where your maximum lies. And you'll see you'll have to move this line further away to pass through this point than it passes through that one and that one. So like I always say at the end, make a statement just to answer the question. So if the question said, what is the maximum profit? Then you will say the maximum profit is 77,500. If the question said, how many meaties packages And Yummy's packages, should they produce, you will say he must produce 50,000 packages of meaties and 100,000 packages of meaties in order to obtain the maximum profit. Okay, so I hope this video has been helpful. Come and see me if you're still struggling, and then we'll go over it some more.